Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Kickstart with Kayla. I'm your host, Kayla Farner, and I'm so excited that you're here with me this week. If you haven't connected with me already, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Kickstart with Kayla. And if you have any inquiries, you can email me at kickstartwithkayla@gmail.com. Guys, I am so excited for this week's episode. We have a very special guest on this week. I want to introduce David Prosper. Hello, how are you doing?
Kayla, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Guys, if you don't know who David is, he is a clarity coach, leadership mentor, and the author of Finding Clarity, Your Guide to Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity. He also helps high achievers break out of confusion, burnout, and feeling stuck so they can start living and leading with real direction and intention, which I think is so awesome.
Yeah, that was a solid intro. So I appreciate you. You made me sound better than I am. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, for those that, do not know who you are, I was hoping that you could share a little bit of your background, and a little bit of your testimony just to kind of share, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, 100%. Great question. I would say growing up in Fort Lauderdale, my parents were Haitian immigrants who came into this country, and my mother was a pastor. So I grew up in a single family home, and it was just my mom and my two siblings. And mom being a pastor, we went to church every single day, and to the point where it was Sunday through Sunday. But I remember the moments where I would listen to my mother pray and I would say, like, I wish I could pray like that. She would pray for like 3 hours. So growing up in the faith and being Pentecostal, I remember just all of the biblical teachings and the foundations that I had. And when I got older and I went to college, I told my mother I hated religion, and she was baffled. She's like, "I'm this pastor. What do you mean you hate religion?" I was like, "No, I hate religion, but I love Jesus." And it was like this weird thing for my mom to understand because I was reading at the time Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And I told my mother, hey, you should read that. And religion as an institution just oppresses people, but a relationship with Jesus gives people freedom. And I remember having those conversations with my mom, and I was baptized at 11 years old because she was the pastor, so I had to get baptized. But when she passed back in 2016, I got rebaptized because I was like, I want this faith to be my own, not something that I've inherited from my parents. Um, and ever since then, it's just been like, all right, God, I'm walking this walk with you through good and through bad. So I've been I've been in the faith for a very long time, but I've been rededicated since 2016.
Wow, that's amazing. What a cool opportunity that you got to grow up in too. But I wanted to dive a little bit deeper. You said you hated religion, but you love Jesus. Like what do you mean by that? How was that thought process?
Yeah, so oftentimes, not oftentimes, religion is do so that you can appear to be good and worthy in my eyes. A relationship with Jesus is you already are worthy in my eyes. So move from that identity. And what I've seen is we're living in a broken world. So there's people like, oh, church hurt me. It's like, well, did you go to work? Work probably hurt you too. Did you go to school? School probably hurt you too. Um, but but for me, it's like, how why are we doing tradition to then create a routine so we feel good versus are we doing a rhythm that we're building and deepening our relationship? So when I I go to non-denominational churches, and what I see from the outside in, like, I love it and I still go. What I see is like this well-oiled machine. Come to, give your life to Jesus, get a part of a group, serve. And versus be be a part of a group, grow, then serve after you grow. So it's from the identity versus from the performance. And religion often nurtures and celebrate performance, performance, performance. And God said, I just want you to abide. So when I started reading the Bible for myself, like watching how Jesus led and how he talked, he was always telling his disciples, abide in me, spend time with me like little children. Just like, hey, dad, where you going? Oh, okay, you going over here? Let me follow you over there. There's like, I'm gonna do all this stuff. Like Mother and Mary is like the most perfect example of Martha's doing all of this stuff, and Mary's just sitting at his feet and just like, I just want to listen to you. So for me, it's like I care more about the relationship with him than the performance to be approved by others. And the most scary verse of all time in my life, or in my opinion, is in Matthew when he says, "Get away from me, I never knew you." And it's just like he's not talking to outsiders, he's talking to the people who practice. He was like, "Didn't I just confess in your name? I did these things in your name. I did." It's like, "I never knew you, you workers of iniquity." So it's like that means there wasn't a relationship. So for me, that's that's why relationship mean more to me than religion. So when people say, "Are you Christian?" Right? It's like I'm a follower of Jesus. But you're Christian, right? It's like I'm a follower of Jesus.
Mhm. Yeah. And one thing too, I think the one thing that I really love about, being a follower of Christ is that, like you said, we don't emphasize performance. Like I feel like all the other religions, it's talking about you need to do this, this, and this, and then you will, get that reward. But it's like, no, you just the way you are, come to me.
Yep.
Like you do not have to first check all things on a list and then you get me. No, like I want you as you are. And I think that's so beautiful, and I think that's something that I wish a lot of people fully understood, because I think it gets very twisted. Where it's like you have to read your Bible, you have to go to church, and then you'll be saved. Oh, but it's no, I think it's just so much more than that, and it truly is more so of a relationship rather than just religion.
Yeah, and to your point, like reading the Bible, like those things are beautiful because it helps us understand who Jesus is in the walk. But the thing about it too, like what we get taught indirectly is we're going to treat God like a ritual, and we're gonna do these systematic things, and then we're gonna get these things. And if we're doing rituals, that's witchcraft.
Right.
But a relationship is some days, Kayla, I'll call you. I don't have your number, but some days I'll call you. Some days I'll text you. Some days, I'll just listen. So it's like reading the Bible is beautiful, and then walking with God and be like, all right, God, I'm gonna go and talk to you in nature, and or I'm gonna have a conversation about you. So it's like he's not so small that he's only limited to one way of communication, but he's so big that we can talk to him in multiple ways, just like he's done it in the Old Testament. So, yeah. So when you said the systems, that's my mother would be like, "You got to wake up at this time. You got to read your Bible at this time. You got to go to church at this time." And she was militant, and I was like, "Mom, like this is why people run away from the religion because it feels so restrictive versus so relational and so connective and exploratory." So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think a lot of people do get quite confused on that. Speaking of, I didn't even mention you're also known as the clarity guy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Um, could you talk a little bit more about that and why you're called that?
It was summer of 2021. I'm walking up the mountain in Colorado Springs, and I'm at the top of the mountain. It's early in the morning, so it's like it's cool. There's dew on the grass, and I'm just like, God, like, what's my purpose? Like, why am I here? How do you want me to serve your children? Tony Robbins had this thing. John Maxwell has this thing, and I was like, what do you have for me? And he said, clarity. Um, and I started like thinking about it. I was like, when people leave me, how do they feel? They all say, ah, that makes sense. Oh, I get that. I get that. So he was like, then write a book. And I was so afraid. I was like, no, who the heck am I to write a book? Like, I'm I'm a Haitian, I'm a son of a Haitian immigrant. We don't even speak well. How am I gonna write a book? And he was like, just then do a podcast. So I started with Clarity with David Prosper. And then from that podcast, it became a book. And then as I started coaching more and leading more, um, there was like people often saying it's like, man, I got so much clarity from that, clarity from that. And then one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna own that because what I've learned in the Bible is that every time uh, a leader goes from a place to elevation, their name always changes. Like Jacob to Israel, those just like, you know what? I'm gonna lean into it. And then just like, all right, I'm the clarity guy. And the name isn't for me, it's how I help people. And at the end of the day, when they have clarity, they know their next right step, and hopefully their next right step leads them ultimately to God. Um, but it gets them on that journey of making better, more intentional decisions. So the name is to serve others.
That's beautiful, and that's just the result of you being obedient. Like, that's a great story, listening to God and him telling you, "I want you to do this," and just, I'm sure you've been able to see just the results that you've had from your work and the way that he has been using you, to get across to others. I think that's just truly a demonstration of how powerful God is, how he can truly work in everybody's lives.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Um he is. How did you know that that was God truly talking to you? Or how can people know that it's God talking to them and telling them to do something, or it's simply just their own thoughts?
Oh, this is the good one. This is the good one. Because it's just like sometimes we hear our own thoughts and it's like, is that you? What I've learned, and again, this is the journey that I'm on. What I've learned when God is speaking to me and how I know it's him is if I read the Bible and it gets confirmed, then I'm like, oh, you said that. And then the second way I know it's God speaking and not my conscience, or if the thoughts that I'm thinking are to glorify him, then it's from him. Because selfishly, my ego, my flesh is just like, what's in it for me? I want the attention. I want to be celebrated. I want to be significant. If it's me driven, then I'm telling myself those thoughts. But if it's to glorify God, it's him trying to speak to me. And then the next thing I look for is, can you hear me?
Yeah.
The next thing I look for is confirmation. So I look for confirmation in the word, and then I look for confirmation outside. And people, God uses people to be like, hey, let me speak that into your life. So there's multiple things versus I look for versus saying, okay, that's God speaking to me. But I look for it in the word more, the first place I go when I hear something.
His word is the truth. No, that's good, and I'm trying to get better at that too. I'm currently stuck in a cycle where it's like I read my Bible every morning, but I've been really bad at being intentional with it. Um, and so that's something that I definitely need to work on. But I will say, like, it definitely helps when you have a thought or you're being led to do something and sort of talking it out with God and just saying like I'm waiting on a confirmation or something because God doesn't always give you signs in the way that you expect. And so I know for me I often will simply get a gut feeling where
Yeah.
it's like this is Jesus, or it'll honestly become more clear to me where it's like that's my flesh talking. Like, this is just trying to fulfill my own desires, and do those desires align with what God wants for me? If it's from the flesh, probably not. Um, and so, yeah, that's really good though, because I know a lot of people get confused when it comes to that and think, "Oh, maybe I'm just being delusional." It's like, well, look a little bit more into it.
And the beauty is too, like you'll have clarity at least in your next right step. Um, and then you'll have a sense of peace in the process, even though you can still simultaneously feel um fear and discomfort. But there's like this parallels, like even though I feel challenged by this, um I'm going to lean into it. Like, for example, the other day I was walking and I was like, God, what you got for me? What you got for me? And it was like, I need you to study the number seven, the biblical meaning of the number seven. And I'm working on my third book. And I was like, okay. So I studied it. And then the word clarity has seven letters. And then breaking down each letter based off how the Bible is written, in the beginning, consciousness. So that's C. Um, and then he created the world in 7 days. And then the biblical meaning of seven is completion. So I was like, okay, the first title of my book was, the draft was the clarity code, and I typed it up on Amazon, and there's like a million and one, and that's me thinking that I was cool and smart. And then the second one is the seven laws of clarity. It's not out there. So I told my staff and my team and my girl, I was like, I am not smart enough. I am not charismatic enough. I've read over 1,500 books and counting. I I don't know enough to think of something that's never been done before. Only God can do it. And he only told me my next right step, not what I was gonna create. It was just like, I need you to study this and then look at this. And it's just literally step by step. So it's just like that's faith of just taking the next step with him.
Yeah. Wow. And too, so many people get fresh. I know I've had my times of frustration where I'm like, I wish I knew the whole plan. Like, what is he doing? What is he doing with me when it comes to this? But what do you think the benefits are of just knowing the next step and not actually knowing the full plan?
It we do it in our regular lives, but when it comes to like our dreams, our goals, we get so antsy about it, right? So if we're going on a road trip, what state are you in?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I'm in Utah, so we're literally on different sides of the United States. If we're doing a road trip, we and then we're doing it at night. We only can see about 400 to maybe 800 feet ahead of us. We know where we're going, but we only can see this next step. We do that same thing. We get on the airplane. We actually can't see nothing besides what's on the window. Like we can't see it. We trust the pilot is gonna get us there. Um, but when it comes to our relationship with God, I think it started in the beginning in the garden where, you know, our adversary creates doubt. And it's like, what if it doesn't work out? And the reason why I think we want to know everything is it gives us an illusion of control. And if we know, then we know how to respond. But it takes faith to take the next step. And one of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King says, faith is taking the step even though you don't see the staircase. And we all, and I tell this to my clients and people I speak with, we're all trying to play God. We all want to control something. And if we know everything, then we're in control of how to respond, how to move things, how to get things. But he's just like, no, I need you to trust me. And just today, and then the next day, and then the next day. One of the things I gave my clients, Matthew 6 to read, and it talks about anxiety all the time. A lot of us have that. And it's just say, worry about today. Tomorrow will be tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about today. So it's an illusion of control is why I believe that. How about you?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, when I look at it like this, I know that yes, I don't know what is to come. I just know, bit by bit, but God does. And he is the creator of the universe. He's my salvation. Like he is all powerful, all knowing. I would so much rather have him in control than myself because I have this human perspective. I only have my perspective, therefore I'm very biased as to what I think's going to happen, what I think's going to be best for me. And most of the time that's probably not the case. But when I know that somebody else is in control that does know what's best for me, I mean, when you put that on paper, like obviously I'm gonna want that option. If I don't even like label it as me and God and I just say like the best option, or not. Like, obviously you're going to pick the best one, and so that is Jesus. And so it's like, yeah, I want to put my faith in that, and not fully in myself, because I know that he's going to fill all those gaps that I cannot. So
Yeah, and
I think
the best option. So the other day I'm driving and my GPS tells me I have a faster route. So the I was gonna be at the gym 15 minutes late. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be 15 minutes late. But it's like this is the best option to your point. And I like looked over and I was like, oh, but the highway looks a little bit more empty on this side. So I get off the path and then I'm speeding at that point, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got a clear opening, and I hit traffic. So it would have taken me 15 minutes on the best option. Then I went on my own, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes to get to my destination. And I was like, and I was in the middle of traffic. I was like, I'm gonna make a video about this. God, you so good. I appreciate this. And I was like, you know what we be thinking that we know best? Like my GPS has satellites, so it can see way further than I can see. I can only see about 1,000 feet ahead of me. But I was like, "Oh, I'm witty, I'm smart. There's a lane over here. I can jump over the speed. I got a fast car." And I was like, "God, this is just like us, huh? We think we delay what you have because we think we know what's best and we try to get there in a hurry, and you're trying to just develop our character."
yeah. I had a kind of a similar situation where it's just like I thought what was best, but thank goodness I didn't listen. I had a 2-hour car ride, and I always love like a drink when I'm driving, so I stopped by Dunkin' Donuts, and I was in line and it was taking forever. And I was like, I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna get on this line and go. But something in me told me no and stay. And I ended up waiting for a good, like, 30, 40 minutes in that line, and I was, like, I was so frustrated because I was like, "I could have gotten there if I just left, if I had found somewhere else to get my coffee, like, it would have been fine." But as I got out of the line and I went back onto the interstate, there was a massive car crash that had just happened, and if I had not been waiting in that line, I would have been right in the thick of it all. And so I was just sat there and I was like, I gotta call my parents to tell them what just happened, because Jesus, like, he told me, like, I had that gut feeling, like, do not get out of line, like, you are to wait for a reason. And I'm just so thankful that I did, because I was safe. I still got what I wanted, still got my coffee. Um, but he protected me from something that I did not see coming.
Mm. Those are those are what I've learned to call the underrated miracles. We often want the big ones, but it's just like that's the one like you got home today from your destination. You weren't in that pile. There's just like these things, and people are like, "Where's God working?" And it's like that's it right there. If we open our eyes, and that's the whole thing with clarity is, He gives us vision to see, but are we looking for Him?
Mm.
And I'm reading this book with one of my buddies is the disciplines of godly men, and it talks about how the adversary makes us forget about him, and
Oh.
he's like, remember me. So that's powerful that you got that inclination to stay, and now here you are sharing that testimony.
Yeah, yeah, that reminds me of a book I'm reading right now. Actually, one of my friends just published. It's called Ever Present, by Amelia Fisher. But it's essentially just a collection of different essays and writings that she's written over her time in college at Chapel Hill, and just trying to show that, like, God is present always. And it's just these little moments in her life. I mean, one of the chapters is just about how she found this bench in this garden that she just kept going back to because she felt God's presence. And it's just, I mean, it truly shows, like, in every little thing that we take for granted, things that we don't necessarily think, like, oh, that was Jesus. Like, he's there. He's always, always there. And people, I feel like a lot of times, like, we struggle to remember that.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, One more question I did have for you. For somebody that is feeling confused, or they feel like, they don't have clarity, what would you say would be their next steps to kind of find that?
Hmm. This is gonna sound overly simple. I'm like, I listened to this entire podcast and he said, "What? Your mama and your daddy's been telling you this since you were born. Clean your room." Oftentimes we are overwhelmed and we are confused and we feel stuck is oftentimes because we have so much stuff. When we start clearing our stuff, our physical space, then it gives us the emotional and the spiritual space to start thinking more with our prefrontal cortex rather than our amygdala, which is our survival brain. So when we're operating from prefrontal cortex, we're like, okay, now I can reason what makes sense for me. What's my next right step? And we often know it, but we're often hyper focused on the outcome versus on the step. And cleaning our physical space. And when I feel overwhelmed, I clean my car, I clean my office, I clean my room. And then I'm like, okay, now I have space to start thinking. And then the next day is changing our state. So where are you physically located? If you feel stuck in a room or if you feel stuck in an office, go outside and start walking. What tends to happen is when we start processing and moving our bodies, then we start having those moments of inspiration or moments of clarity, and then we start acting, then act on those things. Will be my biggest encouragement.
I never would have thought about cleaning your room.
You'd be surprised. What? If you do that, you're like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel so relaxed. All of a sudden I can think and I have so much room for activities, right? So it's
Yeah. And it reminds me because, I've seen people say that the way your room is reflects how you're feeling, like, mentally. So,
sometimes.
yeah. Wow, that's so interesting to me. But, now that I'm thinking about it, like, every time I do clean my car, clean my room, I'm like, "Ah, feels so much better." Like, feels so much nicer now, so that does make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, my episodes are very short, so I think we're good to wrap up. But David, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story and giving us some amazing insight. I deeply appreciate it.
Oh, the honor is mine. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, guys, I hope this helped kickstart your week, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys.